We are recording and you can start.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Ken and I get so excited to see. I wish we could see each other in person, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen this year. But we want to thank you for bearing with us as we're learning technology. I know last week wasn't as bad as Ken and I thought, the 30-minute layover for groups, but we do apologize to you. But you did fabulous work last week, so it was worth every minute to get you into groups. So tonight, the good news is we're not going to be in groups. We're going to work team, and then after we finish tonight's meeting, you'll have an opportunity then to work individually this week. You will have homework. Sorry about that. But let's talk about what's going to happen tonight. Okay, and my next slide. Come on. Okay, there we go. We're going to talk about the Q&A that you got. I just noticed, I think Barbara sent some more Q&A. I mean, just a few minutes ago, there were some additional questions came in Friday. So those again, if there's anything that you need more clarification on. Then we're going to look at your additional project list. Now, I think you got it from Mike earlier or from Barbara earlier, and then you got another one that Ken put in a PDF file. So we'll even take a break and give you about 15 minutes. I want to make sure everybody understands what are on these additional project lists. Remember, this is the stuff you generated last week in your small groups. We've got notes now. We've got dollar figures. We need to understand by the end of the evening that you understand everything on those lists. Then we're going to talk about the process to reach consensus. Next week will be by far our most important meeting and one of our longer meetings, because we will reach consensus next week on all the projects. Now, it's not just the additional ones that you added, it's the ones that we started with, the ones that came from the facility study. So you'll have everything gathered into one document. Ken and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So Ken, did I leave out anything? Got yourself on mute?
No, just, we have several meetings scheduled, so we'll start the process for consensus next week. And you're right, that'll be, the kickoff meetings of that is always the most important, but we will take all the time we need.
Absolutely. We've got all the time.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what we'd like for you to do, well, let's go back first. And were there any other questions from the Q&A document or anything that you need clarification on? I know you just received another one where there were some questions that were turned in Friday. I always enjoy looking at the answers to all the questions, so thank you for continuing. Tonight, once again, use chat, just like we've always used, but we're also going to have an opportunity to just speak up if there's things that you need to know about the additional projects. Anybody on the Q&A? Okay, I'm moving on then. Here we go. So what we want you to do is, you've got the list, and if you haven't had a chance to pull it up, Ken, they can just pull it up and continue to be on Zoom, right? Should be able to?
Yes, and if anybody didn't receive one, send Barbara Johnson an email real quick. Make sure you get it. It's a PDF document. It is the additional projects that were generated by the groups with notes. And what our job is right now is just for you to get clarification on them. As we've said all along, this does not necessarily mean the end all be all, but it's a starting point for our next step. So.
Yes. So we're going to ask you to look at that, take notes. It's 7:06. We will reconvene in 15 minutes, which will be what, Ken? 7:22.
Yeah. And if you, some reason, lose connection or whatever, just reconnect. I'll be watching.
Just reconnect.
I'll be watching the room to readmit at all times.
And if you need more than 15 minutes, we'll extend it. But I think you'll be okay in 15 minutes. So just take notes, be ready to ask questions, and we will reconvene.
Was that emailed out? I don't see it in my inbox.
Yes, it was emailed out. What time, Ken? It was about 5.
Probably 5 o'clock. It was pretty late.
6:44 is what I got.
Yeah.
We can certainly send it again to you.
Yeah, could you please?
Barbara, are you there? I know you are.
I'm here.
Now, who was asking that? Tell me again.
Andronique Harding.
Yes. Do you mind, Barbara?
Not at all. I will send it right now.
Thank you.
She's like magic.
David Maha does not have that email either.
Okay,
Thank you.
got that one.
What was that name? The second one, David.
Maha, M-A-C-A.
Maha.
Okay, I will send that as well.
Thank you.
Sherry, you might go ahead and repeat the instruction because we've had a couple just be admitted.
Okay, absolutely. I'm sorry. We are looking individually at the list of additional projects that was sent. There was a PDF sent about 5 o'clock today. If you don't have it, Barbara's sending them out again. We just want you to look at it individually, make sure that you understand the notes, understand when there's cost involved. This is all we're doing right now is making sure everybody has reviewed the projects that you generated last week and make sense now. And we will reconvene about 7:25.
Hey, Sherry,
Mm-hmm.
this list that we have, it looks like it's broken out, chunked out in sections.
Yes.
Should there be like a heading for each of the sections so we know what it's pertaining, how you partition this?
Just look. This is Ken. You'll notice that second column
Category.
is the
Oh, the schools and land,
yeah,
technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason I did it that way is because it helps me as we move forward when we start organizing to have those fields that way. I could have put a heading on there, but that would have been the heading if it had one.
Okay, so if I look at the second and the fourth one down on the very first section, does this say that you're going to build a school for $35 million?
That's the approximate cost for an elementary school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm seeing these things.
Yeah.
You
And
are.
I think and I think the note on that was that's on $2020. So
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Did you total the dollars?
You mean like total from this list?
Right.
I don't think we have that. You'll see that in the next step.
Yeah. No, I did not
Okay.
total the dollars because
Okay.
what will happen is well, we'll talk about next steps. You know, what I'm
Okay. That's okay. Thanks.
Won't be long.
Yeah.
Should we be inputting our questions now or waiting for an open discussion?
Oh, I say go ahead and input. And yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
I don't know. Let's
What
wait.
do you think, Ken?
Yeah, let's wait. And it's because others might want to hear the answer while they're
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's probably a good idea. So if you could, let's hold off, write them down until the end. That way everyone has the benefit of hearing the answer.
Okay. We'll just have an open discussion.
Yeah.
Max, stop. since you went on a bike ride, Bubba.
Probably about a couple more minutes, team, and we'll start back. Okay, everyone. Ken, there's somebody in the waiting room. Do you see that? Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for your time individually studying this report. And I want to thank staff for turning this around. Oh my goodness, there's a wealth of information. So we need to have an open discussion. Barbara, I know you're there. Help me jot down anything that we need to follow up on. Hopefully we'll be able to answer the questions pretty quickly, but there may be some that we can't. We'll get them to you. So Ken, you said the raising your hand function, we're not using that, right?
No, we'll just go with open discussion.
So we're just going with the flow. So
Yeah.
who's first? Who has questions?
The laptops,
Mhm.
they're pretty costly. I know I saw that we were talking about a Dell model, but I want to know, do we have to go with Dell? I mean, I think there's laptops out there by Lenovo that are like $200, $300. So it seems significantly higher.
Okay. Staff?
My understanding with any of that is that we have a contract with Dell.
Right.
So
If we
And,
did have a
and that
contract with
could
Dell,
be, that could be my misunderstanding, just clarifying.
okay, and we're buying in bulk. So, I mean, it's not like we're buying 200 laptops. We're looking at a price for 23,000 laptops. So I think that price is wrong.
And what are the configurations? I think if we get the configurations on the laptop that you're talking about, then we can pretty much, is it just a Chromebook you're talking, or just something with 4 gig, and what's the configuration on that? Kind of makes a little bit of difference in pricing as well.
So this is David Jacobson. I'm the Chief Technology Information Officer. Somebody asked about the configuration in the chat, and I did add the answer to that.
Okay.
We are purchasing Dell Windows laptops, the student device. They update the device each year, Dell does. So the Dell 3310 is the current model of student device we are purchasing. They're not Chromebooks, they're full Windows devices. And this is not the, if you look at, for example, a Best Buy ad or on Amazon, you will see Dell Inspiron model. That's the consumer grade ones. They're not as rugged. The specs are not as high. They do not last as long. Those are consumer grade. We buy the business class devices, or they wouldn't last more than a few years for us. We also have to include licenses for various software. We have to include the licenses for the software that allows us to update and patch and keep those devices secure. So those kinds of things add to the cost of that. All that is configured into the actual cost. As far as what we have to buy, a few years back, we did go out and look at bids, and we looked at Dell, we looked at HP, we looked at, I don't remember all the ones who submitted, and we ended up going with Dell, or actually staying with Dell at that point in time.
Does that help?
Yeah, but on the licensing, sorry, this is Kingsley. On the licensing, when we say we do have to buy licensing, how are we purchasing licensing? What kind of structure are we using when we purchase license? We purchasing licenses based on individual licenses. We just purchasing licenses based on, say, I'm just going to have on-demand licensing for X amount of students.
That depends on the software application. Since we're really kind of talking about hardware with laptops right now, I'll give you an example. We use an application called CASE, K-A-C-E, and it's what allows us to image all of our devices. It allows us to patch all of our devices, roll out new software applications and updates and everything like that. That is a per device license that we have to pay for that. Mm-hmm. There are other applications. For example, we use Office 365. And that is per student. There are other licenses. Some are licensed per student, some are per device. The cost of the laptop is things that are licensed for the device itself, not for the student or staff member.
Okay.
I have a clarification question.
Please.
The very first line item under schools and land on discuss the build out of bus barns, and it says that the major project is included in the 2020 bond. Does that mean that request for the bus barn addition is already included in the 2020 bond and some of the finer print?
This is Chris Gentile in Support Services. When we received that request, it said for bus barn number 4. So what we did is we clarified, we currently have 2. We have a Rosenberg and we have a Fulsher. And in the 2020 presentation that we gave on additional items, bus barn number 3 was included in that proposal. So we just wanted to clarify that. So there is a 3rd bus barn in the bond proposal that was presented.
I understand. Thank you.
That makes sense. Good questions, clarifications. Anybody else?
What is the typical rule of thumb that IT is presenting for laptops to iPad to student ratios that currently we have? I see a listing of how many we currently have an inventory associated with it, but is that the typical mix, or are we on a high side or low side, or what?
David, you there?
I am here. So I hope this answers the question. We tend to be have a higher iPad to student ratio at the elementary and a higher laptop to ratio at secondary. A lot of that is driven based on the campus needs and campus-based decisions. From a technology perspective, we have traditionally used the bond to refresh computers that have already been purchased, that have been acquired by the district. Some of that is when a new school is built. For example, we're ordering technology for Tamaron right now. And then in the future, technology services, my department will refresh those computers as they reach end of life. Computers and iPads.
Mm-hmm. Good. Questions? Other questions?
Hey, David, this is Ted McCoy. The contract that you have with Dell, is that based on a specific number of units churning every year and a certain buy rate every year of new devices based on the current number of units that you have and the maintenance that they're going to need as well?
Well, to say we have a contract isn't exactly accurate, and if
I thought that's what you said.
No, sir. Okay. So we actually went out and compared prices. We can use cooperative purchasing networks. So the computers, the laptops and iPads, everything's already pre-bid and pre-negotiated, but we still do our own comparison and shopping. So we do not have to buy Dell. We have to procure properly, whether that's going out for an RFP and bids or if we use a cooperative purchasing network. So a few years back, we went and looked at multiple solutions, and Dell was the most cost effective for us when we compared it to others. And that continues to be true based on our infrastructure and things like that. So we are not forced to go to Dell. We can choose another manufacturer at any time.
Okay.
Dell has provided good equipment and very good service, and is a very good partner of the district. They provided a lot of added value to us. That's one of the reasons why we like to work smarter, not harder. We have fewer technicians per computer than a lot of districts do, but we can do it because some of these applications are things that I was discussing earlier.
Do you see more breakage with iPads than you do with laptops, or vice versa? Because there's a proposal for both of them here. Is there maybe a consideration where, because of breakage, because students are dropping things or whatever the case, they're handling or using them different, maybe one's more conducive to their use?
I don't have data in front of me. That's a difficult question to answer. Our laptop repairs, some are breakage, but a lot of it is damage, done intentionally sometimes, or things like that. But we have full accident coverage on all of our laptops, which has been also very cost effective for us. We will send out laptops throughout the year, and especially during the summer, out to Dell to be fixed. The iPads, as you might guess, the most common issue we have for repairs is that they get dropped and the screen gets broken. We don't have warranty on that because there's not a cost-effective warranty, but we do have a vendor who's been a very good partner with us, and they will replace the screens for us. I can't remember the cost off the top of my head though, but we do that on a unit-by-unit basis that we ship off to a company called AGI Repair.
Well, and from a user perspective, I mean, it makes sense that you're damaging the iPads more than your students are damaging their laptops. But if I need to type a report, having to do it on a touch screen versus actually having a keyboard to use, it makes more sense to use that keyboard on the laptop.
Agreed. Yeah, and if you look at the answers that we wrote, and I wrote those with not alone, with instruction, with academics involved, and you'll see that if we did become a one-to-one district, the preferred device would be a laptop over an iPad, for the very reason, one of the reasons is exactly what you just said.
That Kristen said, yeah.
David, I had a question as far as, since we're on a laptop question. I'm just looking at, well, I'm just curious, and I don't know if it's something that we would be put into this bond. I don't think it would be, or if it just falls under a maintenance issue. But I read somewhere in the thing that in our literature, that we have 4,000 laptops that are out right now. Do we have, I guess, I mean, obviously y'all didn't forecast this in a previous budget or bond, but does this fall into when these come back, all the maintenance and loose keys or whatever that may be, when they come back, does that fall under your department as a maintenance thing, or is that something that you figured into this so your department would be able to cover that expenditure?
Well, to answer, so it's my department's responsibility to get these fixed, whether it's re-imaging the software, the operating system, or physical repair. And regardless of how it's broken, if a student broke this at home, or if it was dropped in a classroom, or if a student popped a key off or something like that, all of that is covered through our Dell warranty. It's not your typical warranty. It includes all, I jokingly call it accidental death and dismemberment coverage. It is full accident repair breakage coverage. Okay, so when those 4,000 come back, Roy, that's my team's responsibility to fix what we can or get to Dell to be repaired or replaced. That's what we do every summer.
Okay, that's what I just wasn't sure if we would maybe put a caveat in this, maybe bump up laptops needed for this bond. But okay, that was my question.
Good question. Others? Anything else?
Yes, this is Quentin Hollis. I had a question in the athletics. I see where they want to refurbish 2 grass fields with new root zone, goalposts, irrigation fencing. My question is, I see that there are no lights included in that. And so is it really worth it to do all of that? And when time changes, they have to go to the high school to play games because, you know, there are no lights at those fields. And is that for protection, or is that to have games at the junior highs, which they currently play at the high school? So I don't know. Just wanted to ask that question.
Absolutely. Staff, who do we have?
This is Nikki Nelson. I'm the athletic director,
yeah,
and
Nikki.
I can tell you that we do not play any contests on our junior high fields currently. All of our contests and our games are played on our high school turf fields. Those junior high fields, if I understood the item correctly, are used for practice by our junior high teams.
Correct. So
I can tell you that
why are we refurbishing the field? Why are we putting root zones and goalposts and irrigation for fields that we just practice on?
And that was an item that was added by the committee.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that we have a internal group that works on our athletic fields, and we treat them as needed, and we take corrective action when needed to add additional seed, put corrective fertilizer, herbicide, etc. If we run across a particular field that needs a new goalpost, those are things that we can do out of budgeted money to make those corrections so that our junior high students can practice as needed. But that's not something that we would necessarily need to improve those fields in order for our junior highs to be able to compete at those fields, because they're now competing on our refurbished turf fields at the high schools.
Okay. And remember team, this could have been one person or it could have been multiple people in groups that wanted this item listed. The next step is you'll have an opportunity individually to rank it. So.
Sherry, I have a question maybe for going off of that same topic. Maybe this is for Nikki or Kevin McKee. I'm not sure which one. I believe it was on last bond. It's coming out of the last bond. The new facility that's going in front of Lamar Junior High, and that right there at the corner across from the baseball stadium. Is that new facility, is that going to have lights on it? Or is that?
Yes.
It's
a sub-varsity field for Lamar High School. So
okay.
Yes.
And it's going to have lights?
Yes.
Okay. No question.
Thank you.
Good question. Okay. I don't want to rush us, but then again, I want to be.
This is Dave Versek over here. We had a question
Dave.
about Huggins and the water quality, and the answer is that the water quality issue is Fulshear. That may be for water pressure, but somebody still, you know, I guess when we make our tour, maybe we want to taste the water, and somebody needs, as I don't know if our other partner, and I'll think of his name in a second, is here. Colhaney. Anyhow, he's an engineer. He's a professional engineer. Okay. And he would be one that could help us. I'm assuming that your engineering department looked at that, but did they do, or they didn't include anything to evaluate the piping to see if there is a problem with corrosion or some residue in the lines? I know when we change to surface water and we go to chloramines from the regular chlorine disinfection, dead zones, chloramines are not effective over time, and that leaves bad smell and taste in water. So that may be an issue with Fulshear. If they're just like City of Richmond changed it to surface water, that may be a problem.
Okay.
So I mean, somebody just should look at that. As to me, that's not good. That's not a good answer to just say that that's up to Fulshear.
This is Chris Gentry from Support Services. Aaron Morgan, our Director of Maintenance and Operation. Aaron, can you weigh in on that with, particularly with the Huggins facility?
Craig Comey was the fellow I was trying to remember. I don't know if he's on today. He's in Group 6 with us.
Yeah, so this is Aaron Morgan, Director of Maintenance Operations. We check the schools on a regular basis. Huggins is no different than any of the others. We get our water supply from the city. If we have any issues out there, then we will outsource our water testing to an outside third party just to make sure everything is good. We're not necessarily aware of any particular issue on the supply side like that, but it's something that we can monitor on a regular basis if we need to.
Yeah, either an instructor, teacher, or a parent brought that up as a problem in our working group last week.
Okay.
And yes, we can always take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
There's a mention about district-wide fencing is included in the 2020 bond and it needs assessment. Can we have some more details around that, what the fencing includes?
It's Chris Junty again from Support Services. We did identify both through principal feedback and also through our walks of the district, if there were areas that required any fencing. We did take a look at that and listed those items, and we just included that amount in the safety and security line item that we have in the 2020 bond. So where we've identified needs, places I'm thinking of, Taylor Ray come to mind with their portable buildings, that we built that money into our safety and security line item.
Okay. Well, there'll be time all week if you need to ask other questions. We'll continue to put it in our Q&A document. I'm gonna move on. We are now ready to talk about, let's see if I can get to the next slide real quick. Remember, we've talked about your role from day one is to build consensus, that we're gonna walk you through the committee to build consensus on a recommendation to staff and then ultimately to the board for the 2020 bond. So just as a little reminder about consensus, here's just a definition. It's the general agreement. It's the group decision-making process in which you develop and agree to support a decision that we come to consensus is in the best interest of the district. You know, I added a couple little sentences down there. Will we get to 100% of our committee saying yes? We may not. We'll get close. But can you support the decision? Can you live with the decision? You know, we don't want anyone to walk away thinking that you won or you lost, because then it's not true consensus building. So to do that, we'll go to the next one. We're going to, and Ken's going to talk in a moment about what to expect from the staff by about Wednesday. But to do that, we're going to take the master list that you got on at our first meeting. It's also all posted on the website where the staff made the recommendation for the 2020 bond. And then we're going to add the additional project list that you just got through looking at. Every one of you will receive an email allowing you then to rank these projects. And once again, I'm going to ask Ken to explain what to expect. What we're going to use is we're going to use a three-prong approach: critical, high, and desired. So the first thing with critical, does it align with the master plan principles? And if you haven't reviewed the master plan principles, they're on the website. I would review those before that I start. I don't want to use the word voting, but before I start giving a category to or ranking these different projects. But I also added, if the project is not approved, there would be a negative impact on students and district as a whole. Maybe you're talking about growth. Maybe you're talking about safety and security. Some of the synonyms for critical: crucial, major, imperative. The next category would be high. You know, the project's needed. It's needed to achieve our mission. It's needed to serve kids. It's important. It's significant. It's needed. And then, of course, there's going to be some projects that are desired. The project will be advantageous for the district and students. It's beneficial. It's helpful. It's useful. We want everyone individually to rank all these projects. So questions, comments? You know, I think Ken in the past has used 5, 4, 3, 2. We've done some numbering systems. Just thinking for this first. Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, let me add on this.
Please.
This provides us a starting point. It doesn't
That's all
mean
it
that
is.
anything that lands in one particular category is not considered. It gives us a starting point to really start to look at what are the big, essentially, what are the areas of consensus that seem very obvious, and then what are the areas that need further discussion and further dialogue with the committee. And so it's a starting point, it's a guide. And these definitions of critical high, and these are obviously they're to some extent subjective. So feel, I guess what I'm saying, don't feel any risk one way or the other. This is just, it gives us some good quantitative data to really start our conversation. And the way it will work is, well, yeah, sure, you'll go over next steps. So go ahead.
No,
well,
go ahead, Ken. Yeah.
May I interject, David Vershek?
Oh, sure, David.
Perhaps there should be a fourth category, whether it's too expensive or some way for us to express a desire to take that off the list, as opposed to critical or higher desire. That means, well, everything stays on the list. And I think there's some things on there that are extremely expensive, and I think we may not be able to afford those, and so you need some other category that defines that as a reject or a hold or something like that.
I think
Sherry,
I think
Sherry,
we can,
I have a comment.
hang on. Let me address that.
Next. Ken
I
first.
would just suggest we not go down that road yet.
I agree.
We will have time to do that. Because it's going to become obvious that because I completely agree, because this won't be the last time we do some type of polling process. What will be different is that we're going to use more than likely the polling function within our meetings that will get down to more of a definitive consensus. But as a starting point, this works pretty well for us because I think it honors everyone's at least, decision. But I get what you're saying, Dave, but I think there'll be time for that.
Who was trying to talk?
I was trying to chime in because I agree with Ken in that David's idea of expensive may be different than mine. And right now we're just trying to put out ideas that ultimately the board will decide on. So I don't want to say, David, your idea is too expensive because I think it's a horrible idea. I think we'll have time for that. So Ken, that's what you said. So that's
Well, and what Ken said, this is our starting point. And then our job in the future meetings will be to especially spend a lot of time talking about the ones that are desired and high. Some of them will jump right off the page that we're at consensus on the critical. So. Ken, explain what their survey will look like.
Go ahead and go to your next step there.
Okay.
And then we can take questions.
Yeah, there it is. I'm sorry.
You'll get a SurveyMonkey link that is real simple. What we'll have is it will be broken down exactly like we've been discussing: schools and land, technology, so forth. It will include all of the needs assessment projects provided by the staff from the facilities needs assessment, and all of the projects that were recommended or requested, or at least requested to look into by the committee, that have dollar amounts to them that are definitely additional projects that could be considered. And the last thing, let's say it's a SurveyMonkey, you'll only have those three choices. And then what we will do is that'll go out Wednesday. I need your responses by Friday. There's only 8 categories, or 7 or 8. I think it's 7, categories, and one additional item as far as I'm going to ask you, just for validation purposes, and this is only for Sherry and I, to put your email in there so I can validate that yes, in fact, your input was taken and that wasn't done multiple times or anything like that. But that won't be shared with anyone. That's just
results will be anonymous.
It's just a validation point.
Yeah.
You submit that, and then we'll turn that data around and bring that back on Monday night, and then start our consensus process.
Just a quick question, if I could.
Please.
And going back to what David was talking about with respect to ranking these things, and Ken, I heard what you had to say, and Jeff, I heard you as well. But there's something that kind of, I think, rings a little bit true to what Dave said. And that when we do this ranking, the way we're going to do the ranking based on the way that it's being laid out is that we're going to do the ranking based on having, let's say, a blank check. And I don't think the district, when they go to the voters, should consider that they have a blank check where they can write whatever they want and the voters are just going to agree with it. I think we have to go through a process that says that we were kind of, even from the beginning, thinking fiscally about what was the prudent thing to do. And if we start off going, let's have pie in the sky, and then way down the process we go, okay, let's trim a couple of things, it doesn't speak to how diligent we were to the fiscal constraints that maybe a portion of the population in the district feels we should have.
Well, Ted,
Sitting on the bond committee in 2017, at the end of the process, it was fairly difficult to cull out things, and that's my point. If we have some ranking of things that are really expensive and very questionable, and we identify them at the beginning, it's better, because right now everything is acceptable. It's just some are more acceptable than others, and some are really, really acceptable. And that's really not the real world.
Yeah.
So
I have a quick question on that.
Let me interject on that.
Okay, hold your question. We're not going to forget you.
I'm just saying, trust the process. This is just the first step, and this does not mean that this is everything is included. I think that's a perspective that's coming across. Is that means everything. I think at some point everything should be considered as whether it's value to the district, but the things that Dave's talking about, that we will get there. I'm just saying, trust the process. We've got time. We're going to get there, and don't stress too much on that right now. I understand completely what you're saying, but that will come out. I mean, that thinking and that idea will come out as we move forward.
Who had a question?
I did, and that pretty much summed up what I was going to say. So no waste of time.
We're going to be all right, y'all. I mean, don't worry.
I promise. I can't believe Ken beat me to the trust the process. That's my go-to sentence. Can you live with that just for this first step?
Trust but verify.
Yeah, trust but verify.
Right.
It's the first step is all.
Just the first step. Are we okay?
Sure.
Okay, so you'll receive this Wednesday. Survey Monkey, be easy. You'll get it back to us by Friday. So when you come in on next Monday's meeting, we'll share the results. We will see if there's a consensus or really close to consensus on certain projects. If there are, we won't spend our time talking about those too much. We're gonna concentrate on the ones where we need to build consensus. There'll be all kinds of time for discussion, questions, and we've got as many meetings as we need to get there. So Ken, what have I forgotten?
I think we're good. Like I say, just this is the first step, and trust the process, as we've said. So.
Any additional questions? Be sure and send them to Mike. I know Barbara's jotted down some. If they weren't answered completely, you'll see them again.
I do have.
This is a record.
I do have an announcement. 2 hours ago, my 7th grandchild was born.
Yay!
Congratulations.
My first namesake of the 7. He is the rest of them. Cool. The rest of them all got my wife's middle name, and finally one gets me. So anyway,
you know why he's here, because they won't let him in the hospital.
Because they won't let us in the hospital.
Yeah, so might as well be with his friends from Lamar.
Anyway, thank you so much for your congratulations there.
Staff, Mike, anybody, anything to add?
if there are no further questions, I think we're good. And we're available throughout the week if anything pops in anyone's head. Send us an email. We'll be happy to follow up.
Okay. Stay safe, everybody. We're going to sign off then.
All right. Bye, all.
All right, y'all
Wait.
have a good
Look
evening.
for your survey.
Have a good evening.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.